talk about that journey to like becoming full-time music.
The journey has been tumultuous. If you're not in love with it and you can't accept the imperfections of your life path, you're not going to be happy doing anything. When you're a child, every single thing is new. Every single thing is hard until it's not. Everything is uncomfortable until it's not. So like you have to keep doing that as an adult person. I completely support you. You gotta like, being mature is knowing you know nothing. Being like willing is to be a little bit uncomfortable, like, and knowing that at one point you will be a master of that yet again.
Like I think that's really cool. Like I've definitely jacked that idea. This is They're Good at That Shit, where I talk to musicians who are killing the game about what they're doing to keep killing it. So today, joining me now is the one and only, many people know her from around the singer-songwriter scene here in LA, Brenda Carsey. What's going on?
Hey.
How are you?
Just over here glistening in the summer heat.
Yes, it's pretty hot, but yeah, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me.
Absolutely. It's been a long weekend, so I'm glad to be chilling and hanging out with you, not doing something else.
Right on. Okay, several things to talk to you about. One of them I want to talk to you about is getting people out to shows, because you put on several showcases, super dope ones. A lot of them like have tons of people there. I remember specifically one you did at Rockin' Lounge, which was super dope.
So fun.
I mean, like I don't know, the exact number, but it seemed like, I mean, it was like 200 people in there. And that's a lot of people. It's hard to get that many people out to a show in LA. So talk about what goes into having a successful show, getting people to come out.
I think there's a few things. So one is not overplaying. We call that oversaturating the market with yourself. So don't be playing like, one show every 2 weeks and then expect to pack it out, because it's not because people don't love you. They just have other things that they want to do in life. So that's number one. Number two, I feel like giving yourself enough time to promote and spread the word, so that way you're not stressed and everyone else has just so many things going on. And so just having it like stay in people's consciousness for a few weeks, I think, is better than doing it all last minute. And just not taking it personally too, if people can't come, because you're like, just be detached and like just be like, I want you there if you can. And I think that also encourages people to be there, because you're not like trying to freak them out or pressure them into being there. You're just like letting them know. You're like, no strings attached. Come if you want. I love you if you can't. You know what I mean? And then I do think that doing like individual reach outs is really important. And I think a lot of people are like, I hate the copy paste text thing and all that. And for me personally, if I get a copy paste text that I can tell is a copy paste text, it doesn't bother me, because they took the time to text me still. You know what I'm saying? And they had to edit like a little bit of it. And to me, I'm like, I know how much energy it takes to do that. So I'm like, I'm all about it. I'm a sucker for a direct invitation. I am.
No, I think the direct invitations are huge, because like I've talked to artists before and they'd be like, yeah, man, nobody came to my show. And I'd be like, well, who'd you invite? I mean, well, nobody, but I posted on Instagram. But like I never rely on Instagram to get people out to a show. Like, yeah, it's cool. Like sometimes, I've had a couple people come from that, but by and large, if I have a show where a lot of people come, it's because I personally like messaged them and said, hey, come through, and I feel like, yeah, and like some of the things you hit on was like, like people not like, or people saying they don't like getting these like texts or whatever. And I feel like we like get in our heads about that, sometimes. And like we don't want to annoy people, we don't want to piss people off and this and that. I feel like like, I mean, like you said too, it's like, or number one, it's like, you know spread it out, so it's not like you're hitting them up every day like, hey, I got a show, like, you know what I mean, like, so if
Yeah.
you spread your things out, then it's not like you're like bombarding them.
Yeah.
And then two, I feel like if they're your friends and they know what you do, then they should support that. And if they don't, if they're annoyed by you inviting them to a show, then they're probably not that good of your friend anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think number one, this is for everybody. This is advice forever. Your friends are not your fans. You got to get that through your head. And it sucks and it can be painful. And sometimes your friends are your fans. Sometimes. But
Mhm.
most of the time, if they're coming and they're your friends, it's because they just love you and support you and they believe in you. But life can get in the way of that, right?
Mhm.
So building a fan base is different, and where you'll get people coming out because they want to hear your music or see your show or whatever the case may be, more than just always relying on your friend base, especially if you're playing often. If you have like, like 5 months between shows, then by all means, like harass all your friends.
Mhm. Right. Right.
But yeah, I think we all should support each other with the mass texting, because it takes effort and it takes energy and it takes hours. It takes hours of life to text like 200 people, whatever, however many people you're texting. That's how many people I'll take the time to reach out to if it's like a big
Mhm.
show.
Mhm.
And I also make it a point to only do that if it's like a big show. I don't text people if it's a small show, but if it's like a big show, it's meaningful. I'm like, I cannot succeed without you. Or it's
Mhm.
like a venue where you're like, this is like a big deal, you know what I'm saying? And I want them to be proud of me or to work with me again or things like that. Then it's worth it, all that extra effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like for a big show like that, like you were talking about, yeah, like I tend to like I have a spreadsheet with basically like everybody I know, and I like
Ooh.
individually like reach out to people and like mark off. And it's a ton of work, like marking off as I've reached out to people and et cetera, et cetera. It is a ton of work, but if you want, people to come out, like that's kind of what, goes into it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, absolutely. I think you can only expect to get as much energy back as you put out. I
mhm,
think the world has a way of finding its own version of balance, and it's not like fixed balance. It's like swirly, whirly balance that seems imbalances sometimes, but the output input thing has to be comparable, right? So if you want really good input, like receiving a bunch of stuff from the world, you got to output, you got to give energy, you got to put effort. You know
mhm,
what I mean?
mhm,
And then the last thing would be like have something to celebrate, maybe. Obviously, if you're trying to do like a bigger show, I think it's like just being like, I'm having a show just cuz is not always successful, especially in your
mhm.
hometown. That could be successful anywhere else you go to, but in your hometown, having something to celebrate is helpful, I think, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, like it's my birthday, or it's like I'm putting out this project, it's a big
Yeah.
project I'm putting out or whatever. Yeah, like pegging it to something definitely can be useful for sure. Um, you've also done like cool like photo shoots. Like if you're doing a photo shoot with, or you're doing a show, several of your friends on the bill, you get all your friends together, do a photo shoot, and then you have those photos to like I think that's really cool. Like I've
Oh,
definitely
thanks.
jacked that idea. Uh
I I think
from you.
I think so. I want to give a shout out to, not that I doubt that she will be watching this, but you never know. But back in the day, way back in my day, no, just kidding, but like 10 years ago, I've
Mhm.
lived in LA for 11 years now. And 10 years ago or 9 years ago, whenever this was, it was a thing that like the East Side music scene was doing. So I stole that as
Okay.
well. And I specifically want to credit Lauren Ruth Ward. And I'm
Okay.
not saying she's the inventor of this, but she was the person that I saw doing this.
Hmm.
And it resonated with me as someone who's like really big on community and not making it about the individual and making it more about everyone working together and not trying to pretend like I can do anything by myself, because like I can't. I can do some stuff by myself, but you know what I mean. For
Right.
dramatic purposes, I can't do anything by myself. I don't think any of us can. I think we all need to lean on each other more, and that's why even the shows that I book that I'm not performing at, I'm always like, this is a group effort. Like it's only successful if everyone makes it successful. And doing like things like those photo shoot ideas is like a visual symbol of that, that it's like we're working together on this. And
Mm-hmm.
like it's also a good time to like build camaraderie and like hang out with people, and you know all that stuff. It's cute, it's cute and fun too.
100%. And I think it's just like, I know for me personally, like if I see, okay, Broadway has a show, cool. He's like, okay, I might go. But then if I see like, oh, Brenda's got a show and Bodacious Thing is on the bill too, and Greg and Good Company or whoever, like, oh, I know all them, I like all them. Cool, I'm gonna pull up, you know?
Yep, yep, yep,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I think that definitely like helps like visually, like, oh, okay, cool. Like I know all these people, I like these people, they're dope.
Yeah,
Let me come through.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so I think that helps for sure. I saw Independence Day weekend, you played a show, Culver City, sea of people out there. Like, how did
It
that
was
come about?
wild.
Yeah, it looked
It was
dope.
really
Like, how was
good.
it?
It was
Yeah.
there's a couple of things that I probably won't share, just to be
Yeah.
respectful to everyone involved. But it was really good. It was a cover gig, so it
Uh-huh.
was not. I use the word show when it's my artist only music. I
Sure.
say, for me personally, I use the word show, and then I use the word gig if it's a working gig. That's how
Okay.
I identify it with vocabulary.
Sure.
So it was a gig. It was a
Yeah.
working man's show for sure, and
Right.
we worked
Right.
our butts off. We played for like two and a half, more than 2.5 hours, like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and we only had one 15-minute break. So it was intense, but it was so fun. And yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I don't know if they knew what to expect, because it's the first event that they've done specifically like that before. They had not done that kind of an event before. But yeah, there was a couple thousand people there, and it was fun.
Nice.
It was wild.
How'd that come about?
Like I was saying, that's some of the stuff I can't talk
Oh, that's
about.
okay,
But
got it, got it.
yeah, I was solicited. But there's I was on somebody's list. This is the short story. I
I
was on
see.
somebody's list from uh the guy whose list I was on. He's not the one who booked it, but he, I guess, passed my information along to the people who did. It's a city commerce thing, so it wasn't put together by a venue or promoter or anything like that. It was literally put on by the government, the city government.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just like on some list from some other person from a long time ago from a different event. Yeah, that's it. And
Cool.
then I also had to make my case too.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of full band cover videos on the internet, and I
Mhm.
had to kind of fight for myself to get the gig. It didn't just land in my lap. I fought for it. I pitched myself because my social media is more for my artist thing, not for cover gigs and stuff. And I was explaining that to them, so I had to give them a whole description of what it would be like, and like this whole pitch. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So yeah, so so when you say fight for yourself, you just basically like advocating, like, okay, here's what I can do, here's
yes,
what I'll bring, et cetera, et cetera.
yes, yeah, 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 exactly. Just explaining how I know that we'd be a perfect fit for the event. That's long story short. Yep.
Okay.
It's sales, man. It's just sales, because it's a work gig. Again, it has nothing to do with art. It has to do with your ability to entertain people for that kind of a thing, and
Okay.
be professional, obviously.
Mm-hmm. All
Mm.
right. Yeah, I like that. You know, sometimes you gotta advocate for yourself. You gotta fight
Yes.
for, you know, the things you want. And
Yes.
love that.
And just also fighting. I see this as a joke, but like just fighting to not have, and we love old white men, just so the whole internet knows. We love old white men. My father's an old white man. Um, but advocating to not just have old white men performing covers on a holiday weekend show, um, and have something else, just any other kind of other thing, was definitely part of my pitch.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which I wasn't even gonna talk about this during this interview, but like
Okay.
since you brought that up, I will commend you because at you know the showcases that you do, you know, they are diverse. You know, when I go to like port sessions or whether it's Women Who Rock, there's, you know, women of color there, and I want to commend you for that because, you
Oh,
know, all the like honestly, LA is kind of segregated in a lot of ways. You know what I
It's
mean? Like
extreme. Yes,
there's
it's
a black
extremely
scene and
segregated.
there's a white scene, there's an Hispanic scene. You know what I mean? Like I feel like,
Hmm.
and you know, a lot of times you don't find a lot of, you know, cross pollinating or whatever. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so I mean, which is I mean, part of why I, you know, intentionally, you know, maneuver in the spaces that I do to kind of like bring some diversity to these places. Um, and so I just wanted to, you know, commend you for that because, and, you know, some of the showcases, if I'm being honest, aren't the most diverse that I've been to. So like, just wanted to say, you know, thank you,
Thanks.
just give you some
It's
props for that.
Thank you. I got to be completely honest. Most of the time, it just happens on its own.
Right.
I'm not sitting there being like, I need a one of these and a one of these and a one of these.
Sure.
Like, it's not
Absolutely.
like that. It's just like,
Mhm.
I think number one, I like good voices, and that's like my most favorite thing. And my most favorite voices happen to be like women of color. Not all the time, but it's just
Sure.
I feel that they're the best singers on the planet. So end of argument.
Yeah.
Period. But also I just like good music. I think I'm gonna give myself a little like pat on the back. I think I have good taste. I really
Sure.
do.
Sure.
As a
100%.
curator,
Mhm.
as a booker, I think I have good taste. I think
Sure.
I like see a vision and I'm like, oh, this person and this person and this person. And I like building like a story and like a through line with the artist, with like knowing their music and knowing their vibes and knowing their energy. So it's like more like the energy that will come to mind and then me booking that and then next thing I know like it's this the lineup it really is that weird. I'm
Mhm.
like
It's not weird at all. No,
I think curating is like an art form in and of itself, you know.
sure.
But yeah, I appreciate the acknowledgement, the recognition. I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also talking about curating, you just were involved in NextFest, which for people who may not know is at the LA County Fair. A lot of different stages, different artists performing throughout the course of the fair, which was super dope, which I had the opportunity to play, which is like a lot of fun. Like all the artists that I talked to about it seem to have a lot of fun. So it was a super cool experience. Talk about that, your role in that, and you know.
Yeah. So uh there was a group of LA curators getting together.
Mhm, mhm.
All titles aside, because whatever, but there is a group of us getting together, and we're all kind of Jessica Gerhardt was I know she doesn't want to take credit for this, but she was
Sure.
the pinpoint
Yep. Yep.
of collecting us all together. So full
Mhm.
credit to Jessica for that.
Yep. Yep.
And but from that I met Carlos, first names only, just for funsies.
Yeah.
And Carlos like seems sweet. He was very knowledgeable in regards to like years of experience comparable to me and actually way surpassing me. And it was last year, I forget when that was. I think you were there, B, but it was like
Yeah, I believe it
October or
was.
something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
September, whenever the first one, like one, you know, the one that was in Silver Lake,
Yeah. Yeah.
the meeting that we had. But
Right.
that I was like, if you're ever doing anything production wise, because I've been curating since 2011, so a really long time. And I was like, if you ever need like assistance with production or stage management or whatever at like bigger events, let me know. And he was like, send me your resume. So I sent my resume, and then it was like top of the year, January. He was like, hey, actually. And I was like, oh, cool. So said yes to it. Had a great time. Genuinely, the whole team is really, really sweet. It was a tremendous amount of work.
Hmm.
My position was a new position that had not existed in their organizational structure before. And it was myself and another person who I know actually from the scene too, who's a full-time talent buyer. So it was the two of us plus Carlos who were the three talent buyers and point people
Right.
for 275 people that we booked. It was insane.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was fun, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, what other things did you like do in that role, or what kind of went into to putting all that together?
Um, I mean, a lot of the production when you do something that big, there's different departments. So
Mhm.
my department was specifically just talent. So not just like procuring talent and securing talent, but also like making sure we have like proper documentation from talent and like information we need and marketing materials, and like, so from booking to making sure that they have everything they need to get to stage, basically. So that was where my department was. But something that big, you got production team is a whole separate team. Like
Mhm.
who's like organizing stages, like what company you're working for audio and for lighting and for snacks. Like that's a whole other thing. Like
Yeah.
everything is separated into, yeah, into departments. So there, I would say there's probably like 4 departments for that festival because it was huge. It was a huge festival.
Yeah, no, it was again like my personal experience. It was super cool. Yeah, everybody in my band had a good time. I had a good time.
Mm.
It was cool just being at the fair in general.
It
You know,
was
hadn't been
cool.
to the fair before, and I feel like the fair is like one of those places. A lot of people that I talked to when I was telling them about the show, like a lot of people's reaction was like, "Oh yeah, I've been wanting to check out the fair. I just haven't like made it down there." You know what I mean? And like, so I feel like there's a lot of people in that boat. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's cool,
Yeah,
but I haven't gotten there." So it was cool to be there.
I
And
agree. I'm actually the same person. I had never been to the fair, and then I
mhm.
was there for a month straight. So it was a trip.
So now you got the whole layout down, like
I have the layout, and I also would say that I'm a fair convert now. I
yeah,
get it. I totally get it. At least I don't know if this makes me understand every fair across the country, but LA County Fair, I would say it's worth the drive.
yeah.
It's worth the hassle. It's like a unique ecosystem and environment that's unlike anything else, and it gave me a whole new appreciation for like what I imagine what Carney life would be like
Right, right, right.
historically.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
definitely want to go back. Like I want to like even just to
yeah,
like just to go like to just eat the food and ride ride rides and stuff. Like it's just
same,
fun atmosphere.
same.
It was also very nostalgic because like growing up in North Carolina, we used to go to the North Carolina State Fair every
Mm,
year, and there was like
100%.
certain food items I knew I wanted to get every time, and it was like certain things I know I want to do. So it was very very nostalgic. Um,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
it
that's
was
so
cool.
cute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like,
Yeah, I went to when I was little. We had one of the towns I lived in as a kid had a fair every year, but it was very tiny, like a
oh, yeah,
fraction of the size of LA County Fair.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right, so you're like full-time music and music related things.
Yes,
Yes. So that's something that, I think a lot of people, would love, because like, a lot of us are out here just trying to make it any way we can, and
yes,
people are bartending and serving and, you know, working at Starbucks or whatever they can do to figure it out. Talk about that journey to like becoming full-time music.
the journey has been tumultuous, and I also have, it's been pretty short. The first time I was making a living solely as a musician started in like very late 2018. So I had like successfully done it, let's say for like a year, and then like in some change, and then the shutdown happened, and then I was completely screwed. um and then when the shutdown started tampering off, which for anybody watching who doesn't live in Southern California, it was a long time for us
Yeah,
compared to a lot
right.
of other places in the
Right.
country,
Right, right,
especially
right.
working in entertainment.
Right.
We were shut down for a year and a half. It was
Mhm.
absolutely bonkers.
Mhm.
So it took me naturally a while to get any of that back. It
Sure.
was like starting from scratch, literally. And a lot of people that like connections were gone, like people I had known quit their jobs and moved. So it was like starting from scratch. It was really difficult.
Mhm.
But I have done everything. I nannied for 12 years. Just want to share this with people out there. I love that position. I really felt like I was affecting change. And I think children are incredibly important for understanding our species and our societies and ourselves, and they need a lot of love and support. So if you have the patience and love to work with kids, please do it. We need it. I also did like catering when I first moved to LA. I did like brand ambassador stuff where I was just like handing out like samples and whatever, like whatever that I've done so many things. I've done so many jobs. It's insane. So yeah, point of all that is to say it's only been, I guess like 4 years that I've done just music related stuff. And the primary reason for that ability is cover gigs.
Mhm.
It's my bread and butter. I was very resistant to it. I had a very, like, dare I say, punk rock perspective of not wanting to sell out and thinking it was lame and not wanting to do any wedding band related stuff. I was a hater.
Mhm.
And I got one gig in 2018 that started everything. I had never done a cover gig. I had a friend of mine who's a photographer, who was like, this place is looking for someone, you should do it. And I was like, no, I don't do that. And he was like, you should do it, it's paying really well. And I was like, well, I am poor, so maybe I'll try it out. So
Mhm.
I did this gig. I like had not enough material, so I had to learn like tons of songs. And did that one gig for like 2 years. That was my main gig. I was still not a full-time musician at that point, but I did that for 2 years. I did it twice a month for 2 years. And that was like my primary thing, plus nannying and then like booking and curating and all that. And
Yeah.
then post shutdown, I was like, I'm only doing that. That's all I'm going to do. So I've just been like curating lots of cover gigs. Some artist gigs pay, but it just depends. And that's been it. But I'm actually going through a transition right now. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know what's happening right now. Yes. The festival that you mentioned, NextFest, I worked for 4 months, and it kind of happened. I was solicited right at the top of this year, and I kind of was going through a transition of like wanting to pull back from cover gigs,
Oh,
or just find a better balance, because I was doing 14 gigs a month last year,
uh-huh.
and it just about killed me.
Yeah. So
Physically, it was too much
yeah.
physically. So I was pulling back, got the festival, and then in the month of May I worked almost 80 hours in the month
Mhm.
of May.
Mhm.
And it was wonderful and fulfilling, but it was genuinely absolutely bonkers. I had no life.
Yeah.
And then the top of June, I took a week off, and then I had a week with like tons of shows, and then I got really, really sick. And the next thing I know, it's July. So I'm in this place where I'm like post a contract, like don't have as many covers booked because I was so focused on the festival.
Sure.
So I need to I'm in a what am I doing phase at the moment,
Mhm.
where I've got to figure it out fast too, because finances dwindle quickly in Los Angeles.
Sure. 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 Yeah. The cost of living is definitely insane out here.
Yes. Yeah. I would say it's harder to be a full-time musician now than it was historically. And it's confusing living in Los Angeles because I love it so much, and there's so much vitality and so much diversity if you go looking for it, which I do. And if you put yourself out there and whatever, but uh we get the same amount of pay that people in other states get, and their living is half the amount.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
the amount of money that most musicians are getting is comparable to what we were getting paid like in the 80s and 70s. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
really has. If you talk to old heads, they'll be like, "Oh, it's the same amount I was getting paid," and you're like, "That's insane."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of flaws,
Yeah.
but you just gotta love it, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
Yeah. Inflation has hit everything except the musician wages,
Except music, yeah,
which is
except music,
crazy.
yes.
So
And
yeah.
I also think, like, to people out there who are wanting to just do music, like, just become a really good musician and an
Mm-hmm.
instrumentalist. You like, um, yeah, we so Broadway and I met, for people watching, because we're both we met as singer songwriters. Not that we both don't do more than that, but that's how we met one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being a singer songwriter is incredibly important, and we're the storytellers, of the world. Like, we capture things and can turn it into like these huge concepts into short poems that we put to music. It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank God for us. No, but but um songwriting, it's harder now to make a living as a singer songwriter. You can make a living as a songwriter, right,
Mhm.
selling songs,
Yeah.
and you can make money as like an instrumentalist. But making a living just as an artist, singer songwriter, is definitely very difficult, very difficult. So that would be my advice. Like if you play an instrument, put a lot of energy into getting really good at that instrument and play with other people and play cover gigs if you want, or like, yeah, diversify.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I think you definitely hit on like just focus on being really good at your instrument. I think is huge. Like I heard a quote recently and it kind of like it's changed like the way I like rehearse and the way I approach rehearsing. And it was like and the dude I heard it from, he didn't come up with this quote. He said he's got it from somebody else. So I'm not sure who originally said it, but it was amateurs practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can't get it wrong. And that like for me,
Mm,
that was just like you know what I mean? And it was just like, hey,
mm,
I need to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause like a lot of times like I'll play a song or I'll play something, whatever, and then I'll get it right. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm done. But it's like,
right.
nah, let's keep going. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's keep going so I
Yeah.
can do it blindfolded, so I can do it like backwards. You know what I mean? Like, that's the
Yeah,
like the
that's true.
level I feel like it takes to like level up, you
I
know?
I think that's true. I would also, I think first of all, it's true and it's a great quote. I think like I'm really blessed to play with a lot of very fantastic instrumentalists.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think that they're in the next, whatever the next phase past that quote, the next phase past that is they're so fluent in their instrument and
Yeah.
speaking the language of their instrument that it actually becomes completely loose again.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's like it's not that they can't do it wrong, like in the sense that like they're fixed every time,
Uh-huh.
like performing a song, for example.
Mhm.
It's that they can speak the language of their instrument so well that it doesn't matter anymore. They're just like
Yeah.
sailing. They're
Yeah.
fluidly floating on the wind of sound,
Yeah.
and like every single choice that they make, not every choice, but you know, most
Most,
of the
yeah,
choices they make
yeah.
are gonna land, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal. Like that's the point where you got to get. And
The
I feel like
Zen
a lot of
phase.
us, I feel like a lot of us, honestly, like we might be like we're not there and but we're good, you know, but we're not there. And it's like we kind of a lot of people I feel like they like float in the like good realm and they get you can get complacent with that, you know,
Yeah.
because you know people like, oh, you're so good or whatever, but like but you might not be at that level that you're talking about where it's just like you're just like you can do it backwards and forwards and
Yeah.
whatever and you know it's going to
I
sound
think, man, I'm like reflecting. I feel like I have a long way to go. But sometimes
it's awesome.
sometimes you can only be as good as like the stages that you're performing on too, which I just want to I say that only to give people credit who really do want to grow but haven't
Mm,
had an opportunity, like
sure.
until you play on a stage, like, to, not that this is a lot of people, but to like a 500 people or a couple thousand people, if you haven't had that experience or you haven't had the experience of like holding a mic stand a certain way, or like, you know, taking up more space because the stage is bigger, like you,
Uh-huh.
it just, you can only be as good as like you have access to, which is
Sure.
obviously one of the issues with the industry in general, is the
Sure.
lack of access. But so
Yeah.
yeah, so to people who are like, I don't know if I could like walk, like entertain like a, you know, making this up, like 70-foot long stage, it's okay, like you'll find out when that happens, and then
Sure.
you just like be excited and hungry for it, you know, and strut. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
All right. I want to got a few minutes left. I want to talk to you about just like how you stay motivated because I feel like, you know, people tell me that I have like a crazy motor. And
You
I feel like
do.
you're one of those people too, like this has a crazy motor and just like what do you do to keep motivated?
Yeah. um Again, pointing out to the world that I am in a transition period. So I feel like people maybe who have known me for a long time will notice that I'm pulling back a lot. Like I'm not curating as much, I'm not playing as many artist shows, but it's because I'm in like a miniature cocoon phase, which happens and it's totally normal and totally okay. And then you can, you know, rebloom and get back out. But
Mm-hmm.
historically speaking, I just love what I do. I really do think it's that simple. I mean, if you're not in love with it and you can't accept the imperfections of your life path, you're not going to be happy doing anything. You know what I'm saying? Like this life is and when I say this life of doing art or entertainment or yeah, music, whatever, that's what I mean when I say this life. In this country, it's hard. It's very hard. It's not highly supported. It's very misunderstood. It's very isolating from not one another as musicians, but from the rest of the world. There's a lot of shortcomings with it, so you really got to love it.
Yeah.
And I think if you love it, then your motor will be running, as you say. So if you love what you're doing, or you're hungry for what you're doing, or you're like I don't want to do anything else, so I got to figure this out. That's what happened to me. At least I was like, well, there's nothing else I want to do, so I'm gonna have to figure this out. I just have to figure it out. That also coupled with like I'm an extrovert probably helps. Just so people don't feel bad. I'm also just an extrovert, so I was born this way.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because I honestly am like more of an introvert, which like I feel like comes as a surprise to a lot of people because like I'm like out and whatever, but then I'm quiet a lot of the times, you know what I mean?
So what motivates you to be out then?
I mean, I think before the pandemic, like I was more like I was working a lot on music, but it was like, you know, I'm in my room like writing songs a lot and stuff like that. And I guess I just realized like um a lot of it is, you know, connection and collaboration, and you know, that's an important part of it that I felt like I was lacking. And so it was like making it a point because I know, and because I know I'm introverted, and because I know is like sometimes like conversation is like difficult for me. You know what I mean? Like I can be, you know, on stage in front of 100 people and be good, but like having a small conversation with 3 people is like I feel uncomfortable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So and that might seem weird to people, but that's me. So I know, because I know that about myself, it's like making it a point to like force myself to be uncomfortable. And I think that's
Right.
like a lot of what's required in anything. Like if you want to like be better at something, you have to force yourself to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
That's
I
like,
think that's really important. And I want to tie that back into working with children because we forget that that is what we do our entire lives until we don't anymore because we're grown, right?
mm-hmm,
We're grown now, so we're done. But it's like when you're a child, every single thing is new. Every
mm-hmm,
single thing is hard
yeah,
until it's not. Everything is uncomfortable until it's not. So like you have to keep doing that as an adult person. I completely support you. You gotta like being mature is knowing you know nothing.
right,
Being like willing is to be a little bit uncomfortable, like and knowing that at one point you will be a master of that yet again. It's what being alive is. Like tying shoes was like the hardest thing ever, and now you tie your shoes. Like it's all related. So I think yeah, putting yourself in places that make you a little uncomfortable, challenging yourself is all going to lead not only to your growth as a person, possibly your growth in your career, but definitely your growth as an artist for sure. And especially the
absolutely,
songwriter, because we write about life. You know, you got to
absolutely,
live life to write about life.
100%. You hit that on the head. I think that's a great place to end this conversation. Brenda Carsey, thank you so much for joining me. I
Thank you,
appreciate
B.
you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with the
Oh,
people and for joining me on They're Good at That Shit.
yeah.
Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks, sweetie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, bye. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Broadway, the host. If you got something out of the episode, definitely go ahead and hit the like button. Also, subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can get notified whenever we drop new episodes. If there was something specific that you learned or found interesting, put that in the comments. Also, if there was something that you thought you were going to learn more about, wanted to hear more about, and you didn't, put that in the comments as well. We can use that to make these episodes better going forward. Thank you again for checking out They're Good at That Shit.